Parlez-vous français? Are you learning French and you are struggling to get fluent? Or you want to add more French to your life? Then my today's interview partner, Angel Pretot, is the perfect person for you. He has developed a program called French Fluency Accelerator. And speaking myself several languages, I am always inspired by his videos and his speeches where he shares a lot of tips on language learning and mindset techniques. In our conversation today, we will talk about learning French, of course, about how we can add more French to our life, how French can become a part of our lives, and how it is to be transcultural. My name is Rayane and I speak and write about transculturality. And learning a new language is definitely a step to become more transcultural. Bonjour Angèle.
Bonjour Rayane.
I'm very happy that you have accepted to have this interview today on how to add more French to your life. And I love your coaching and teaching approach and your passion to share so much value. And I'm very happy to have you here today.
Thank you for having me. It's an honor to be on your blog.
My first question is, you say that your mission is to help your French coaches to make French become a part of their lives. So how do you do that? How do you coach them or teach them to make French a part of their lives?
So one thing that's important to know is that I work mostly with English native speakers, and almost always French is their second language, which means that they have grown up and become an adult without ever speaking a second language, which is perhaps different from most of the people reading your blog, definitely different from you and me. And so these people, when they reach the age of 30, 40, 50, sometimes more, without ever speaking another language, they don't really have any idea of how to learn a second language, which to you might sound obvious because you learned so many languages so far. But if you would be 50 years old or even younger than that, but you would never have learned another language, you would not even know where to start. So what I do is really provide a system or a process that allows people to step by step become able to even see themselves as speaking a second language, because often it's just like you've spoken only one language your entire life. You don't even have an idea of what it would look like. So we start with defining what would be their goals, what do they want to do with the language. And then we make a very clear curriculum. I like to make a curriculum for each new coachee. So if I work one-on-one with a person, I make the curriculum for them. And if they're in my group program, they can follow the steps to make their own curriculum. And then we work on this curriculum little by little, and we make sure that they practice French also outside of their hour with me, because it's great that you practice with me, but I always tell my coaches, if you practice exclusively with me, you will become very good at speaking French to me, and that's not your goal. Like, it's not supposed to work in a closed circuit. Like, you don't go to a French class for the goal of being able to go to a French class. The goal is to have French as part of your life. So I really encourage them to read, for example, newspapers or like magazines in their fields, or watch videos that have to do with either their fields of expertise or their hobbies, or if they have French family members, of course, speak French with their family members as much as possible. And we like to find all the little ways that they can put more French in their life, whether it's a video here or a book there or speaking to a person. And that's really all about, making French a part of your life, meaning that now you're not only a person who speaks only English, you're a person who speaks English and French.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
That makes sense.
Okay. Yes, and you have mentioned it. You have mentioned your program. So you have developed a program called the Fluency Accelerator. What is it exactly, and how does it work?
So at first, it started when I was having my coach. At first, I was even just teaching. Then I discovered that coaching was a better idea, and we can speak perhaps about that later. And then I figured that what was really missing was a process from to take the person from where they are to where they want to be, which, like I said, the first step is always to define and then make a curriculum and then work that curriculum. And I had this process so well organized for my one-on-one coaches. Like, now it runs really well. And at some point I realized, it's actually a process that I could put in workshops And then people would not necessarily need me to be there. They could follow the steps. So I had it really very clearly and codified step by step. And at that point, I was like, okay, time to develop a program so people can use this method and not have to work one-on-one with me and pay a relatively expensive fee. And also then it also becomes that more people can benefit from it because I only have so much time in my calendar. But now with that program, people can actually use this method. So we have workshops. There's a member zone, and we have 3 workshops that constitute the core of the method. And then every month since the beginning, we make another extra workshop that people can choose the topic of. So as of right now, we have 10, and the 11th one will be created next week. So yeah, and it's a really, really nice community too. So I really enjoy working with them. We have a Facebook group, and every day the students post things in the group. So they like to,
Cool.
for example, share videos that they have found, or they share videos of themselves, which is really nice. You can see how their French evolves over time. And every time someone does that, I post a comment under the video with, generally I say congratulations. I often say it in French. If their French is advanced enough, I often will comment in French directly if I know they will understand. Like we have French and English more or less equal in the group by now, like 50% French, 50% English. And so I comment on their videos and I give them pointers on how they can improve next. So sometimes it's vocabulary words that we're missing. It's basically the same thing that I do in one-on-one coaching, but not without having to be in a structured program where you come every week the same time. You can just post your video in the group, and then I will give you pointers, and then that will help you progress like that. And of course, the other students are also helping you, or like commenting or sharing. And when someone asks a question, it's generally a question that other people have too. So sometimes we have really long discussions. Like one we had recently was about the impact of meditation on French learning.
Wow.
Yes, it can be pretty varied because it's all about integrating French in your life. So we have a very holistic approach. It's not just the French class and we don't care about all the rest. You have to understand that you can't learn a new language if you don't take all the other aspects of your life into account. So that's the kind of things we do in that group.
Oh, I love that.
It's a really,
That
really
sounds
nice
cool.
community. I love working with them. It's my great joy to comment on their thing every day and share things with them. It's awesome.
Oh, nice. The question you mentioned that already. You had mentioned it already. You say that people often ask you why you name yourself a coach and not a teacher. Could you briefly explain why?
Yes. So I believe you cannot teach a language. It's probably a bold statement. I know you're a language teacher yourself on occasion, but I don't think you can teach a language. I think you can only help people learn it. So that's more of the definition of a coach than a teacher, because a teacher is more often someone who shares facts. And I would say that if a teacher is like really good and really inspiring, that's because they're more like a coach, really like. And I love this definition that a coach is really a vehicle. So if you want to go somewhere, you'll probably get there eventually. But if you have a coach, it will be much faster. So that's why I like to call myself a coach rather than a teacher, even though I do a lot of teaching.
Mm-hmm. Okay, that makes sense. You share a lot of tips regarding mindset and strategies in your videos and also in your speeches. I also saw you as a speaker. Can you share 1, 2, or 3 tips of the most successful tips on French fluency or how to add more French to your life?
So the first really important tip that I would share is that you have to know why you are doing it, and in very close details. Like, because I want to be fluent is not good enough. Like, no offense to all the people out there who want to be fluent, but you have to know what fluency means to you, because if you ask a different person, you will get a different definition every time. And fluency is not speaking the language perfectly in all situations with no mistakes. Fluency is actually being able to do all the things you want to do, all that matters to you. So for some people, it will be traveling and going to places where no one speaks English and being able to never have a problem, regardless of whether they make mistakes. Like, the number of mistakes is irrelevant. What they want is to communicate. For some people, it will be running charities. I have some of my clients who run charities with, like a number of like people who answer to them, and or like I have people who organize hospitals in Africa who work with me, for example. If you have to organize a hospital, it's a very specific task or set of tasks. It's very different than the person who's traveling. one is not better or worse than the other. It's just you have to know why you're doing it, because otherwise you will probably waste a lot of time learning things that are irrelevant. And that's often what happens with people, like whether you go to a class or you use apps, you are very likely to waste time on things that are not relevant to you because you learn so-called general French. I don't know who decided what general French covers, but nobody needs general French. You need the French that applies to you. So really be very clear with your goals and your intention from the beginning. You will save so much time. It's the difference between being fluent next year and never ever becoming fluent, despite how many hours you put in. It's not the number of hours or effort. It's really just what you want to do and then practice just that. Mm-hmm. And then what I could say, I have two things that I always, almost in every YouTube video or every workshop or every time I speak to someone, I speak about those two things. The first thing is the daily French bath. So you want to listen to some French every day or watch, for example, YouTube videos every day. We are so lucky nowadays. I mean, think even 10 years back, we weren't able to do that. But nowadays we can, like, it's like a couple of clicks away. You just have to know what to Google and you can find anything in French. And so you want to use some of these things every day, podcasts, YouTube videos, or whatever. You can put them in your car. If you have a long commute, that's, then you get it done. Or you can watch videos, like instead of being in front of Netflix in front of a series in English, you can have a series in French. And it's okay if you use subtitles, like it doesn't matter. It's about hearing French and telling your brain, okay, I have two languages now. It's really just get your brain on board that, like, yeah, I'm a person with two languages. And a last thing that I like to use is, I like to call it the vocabulary notebook. It doesn't have to be a notebook. It could be an app, like a flashcard app or something. But I find that 80% of people prefer the good old pen and paper. Like sometimes they feel a bit self-conscious. And I felt a bit self-conscious even at the beginning, before I found out that 80% of people really prefer the good old pen and paper, and it works better for them. And that's where you write the phrases or the words that are relevant to you and that you need to learn. So then you can spend like 5 minutes. 5 minutes a day is enough, just reviewing this notebook and learning the phrases that are relevant to you. And if you do those three things, defining your goals, putting some French in your life, like listening to French or watching French stuff every day, and then you learn those vocabulary words that are relevant, and you practice, because I mean, a lot of people forget to practice. You also have to practice speaking. If you do those three things, you will become very good at understanding French. And if you practice, then you'll be really good at speaking French. You do those four things, you're set, basically.
Okay, perfect. I'm very curious to know if you give your coaches also a broader point of view on the French-speaking world. I grew up in North Africa, where French has a big presence and history, and also in several West and Central African countries, French plays a big role. So yes. What do you, or are your coaches also interested in that, or is it just learning French to communicate in France?
No, mostly. So I would always make a difference between the people that are in the program and the people who do one-on-one with me. Mm-hmm. Although the people who do one-on-one with me also get access to the program. So that's also relevant. Like in the program, we love to share pretty much anything. As long as it's in French, everything goes. So there's a lot of Québécois stuff being shared around. There's a lot, like, we don't find so much content that's from Africa. So there is like proportionately less, but of course we also share some. And among the people that I coach one-on-one, it's all about what their goals are. So I do have several people who actually work in Africa.
Oh, wow.
Or even I had one who lived even in Africa. He was from Zambia and he was always there. But most people don't live in Africa full time, but they go there for missions. And of course, then we speak about the specifics being there. Sometimes I discover language variants that I don't even know of because I'm French. Sometimes I can feel the limits of my own knowledge, but I find that it's also good to represent that every speaker has a certain culture and they may not be aware of everything that's going on in the entire French speaking world with, an estimated 200 million speakers on all 5 continents. So yeah, it's very, very varied. And most people, I would say that most of the people I work with are very, very open-minded. And even if they're not fundamentally interested in more than France as a country, they will also find it interesting if we find some, bit of trivia or some situation that's interesting to share. They'll definitely be interested in that. So yeah, it's not just France. It's about having a global outlook and learning a language to discover more cultures. So it would be weird to learn a language that gives you access to roughly 50 different cultures. That, you know, there are about 50 French-speaking countries in the world, and just do one. That wouldn't make sense.
Okay. Oh, that's nice. And yeah, I write and speak about transculturality, and my blog is about that in German. And I think, and you are a perfect transcultural example. You live currently in Vienna. You have lived in different countries, and you speak French, of course, it's your mother tongue, German, English, Portuguese, Spanish, and Esperanto. So how does your daily and weekly life look like regarding all these languages?
So I have to say right now, I'm not as multilingual as I used to be. Most of my time is spent with English and French, and German is when I go out, because I live in Vienna. And actually, with the lockdown, we've had 2 months in quarantine, more or less. When I started going out again, I was like, I'm not sure I speak German anymore. But of course, that was a joke. I mean, when I have to go somewhere, I can, of course, speak German to people. And I like to even choose the language that's most appropriate to speak to people. So there are some people I would not expect them to speak English, so I speak German to them, or sometimes I do it because I think it's more respectful. Like, for example, in restaurant, if I go to a restaurant here, I do think it's more respectful to speak German to people. While if
and you speak good German.
Yeah, I it's often the case that I try to call some company and I try to speak English to them, but their English is worse than my German. So we just revert to German. Like, when a package is lost and you have to call the post, you can forget about speaking English to people. It's good if they can give you information in German. So speak German. So I do speak a lot of German on the phone, actually. That's probably the most common situation, because otherwise it's just being in a shop or in a restaurant. And then the other 3 languages, right now, they're very occasional. I'm able to read them and understand them very easily. But Esperanto I can pretty much speak with no problem, because it's such a simple language that it takes me about 2 minutes to warm up.
Wow.
But Spanish and even more Portuguese, it takes a longer time to warm up. So if you warm me up for 10 minutes, I would probably be able to have a conversation in Spanish, and Portuguese maybe a bit longer. And it works, but I don't practice them actively because I don't really have an ongoing use case for them. I also often tell my students that at some point, enough is enough. Like, the people who start being more advanced and they can do everything they want in French, except for being self-conscious about the fact that they still make mistakes. It's okay. Like, if you don't have a use for a better language, you don't have to get better.
But even if you speak a lot of languages like me, and I see your videos, you always give me ideas how to be able to learn better the other language.
Yes.
So that's why it's not. I don't think it's only for someone who has never learned a language, but also for people like me.
The videos, I think the videos are definitely helpful for many people. Also because it's not just about learning French. Honestly, 70-80% of what I say, or maybe even more, in the videos will apply to all languages.
Yes.
So definitely you can always follow my videos and watch them and comment them and ask questions, and you're always welcome to do that. I think there's a difference between what's free and what you have to pay for.
Okay.
Because it's just the difference in accessibility. Like, you are not, like, if you have already a lot of experience learning languages, even if you get some valuable tips from the videos, you might not be ready to actually pay for a program if you know you can do it yourself. That's probably why I have a lot more people with other native languages in my audience than in the program itself.
Okay, that's very, very interesting.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I think that's the difference.
Thank you very much, Angel, for all this value that you shared in today with me. I like your videos, and I like to learn with you and what you always share. So for me, it's a big value, even if I learn a lot of languages, and it also inspires to start to learn a new language as well. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for your time, and thank you very much for all what you shared today.
Welcome. It was a pleasure to be here.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.